Good morning. My name is Gastone. I'll be your guide, and we're going to have a view of the Roman Forum, the ancient Rome, and we're starting right here in what was the top. It was the top of the world, the Capitoline Hill. Caput Mundi in Latin, and you see it's right here where this horse is. Marcus Aurelius, believed to be originally Emperor Constantine. He was transported from the other side of Rome to here, and now is recognized to be Marcus Aurelius. That is not the original anymore. The original is in the museum. We got wonderful museums here, the Capitoline museums, just been refurbished, and it's one of the best museums that you can see in Rome. And now he's safely there. This square was reorganized by Michelangelo in 1545, and he reorganized all those buildings, including this one, with two wonderful, with lots of things to see. There's so many little details in Rome, you know, it's never ending. There are two rivers there. You can see when you see a statue that is lying down, is either a sea or a river or a lake, or the god that represents that, because they're always lying down like water is. And you can always recognize who they are, because there is always a sign. For example, if you look at this one here, underneath his arm, there is a she-wolf. The mouth of the wolf is missing, but two little boys there, Romulus and Remus, the founder of the city, and that is the river Tiber, the god of the river Tiber. On the other side, there is another river god, and is the god of another river, very, very important during the Roman Empire, and that was, well, you can recognize because underneath his arm is a sphinx, so it's the Nile. And in the middle, who else but the goddess of the city, Rome. We copied it from the Greeks. We copied everything from the Greeks, you know. They were so good. We love the Greeks to bits, you know. In Rome, you will first speak Greek and then Latin. And there is Minerva, the equivalent of the Greek Athena, the goddess of the city of Athens, you know. Yes. And the Capitoline Hill was a beautiful hill, fortified, highly fortified, and the Romans had a terrible shock just at the beginning of the existence, when the Gauls from northern Italy, they came down around 380. They came down and took Rome under siege, and the Romans had very fierce guard dogs, and the dogs didn't bark. It was the geese. The geese were sacred to the wife of Jupiter, Juno, and Juno had a temple right behind the building there. That's again is the design of Michelangelo, yeah. There is a church built on actually Juno Moneta. She was Moneta in Latin. Monere means monere means to advise. She was the advisor. And because underneath there were in the foundation and in the cellars there was the mint, monetary system. Money came from Juno Moneta. So here we go. I'm going to take you down here, because there is a wonderful view. There is a wonderful view of the Roman Forum. Very ancient stones, those stones here were the stones of a building was pre-existing to all of this. It was called the Tabularium. The reason why it's called the Tabularium, because it was the archive of Rome, and therefore the tables of laws, the 11 tables of law, the first law system that they created, were kept here with all the archives, it was the sort of the record office of the city of Rome, you know. and has got beautiful terraces on both sides. This is the best one. Actually, from here you can have a wonderful view. Look at this. Where do we start? Well, we start from there, of course. If we look at that, you can see the Palatine Hill. That's where Rome was founded, you know. It was founded there, the square city, just a square wall on the top of that hill. And then it became residential area. And then it became imperial palace area. And in there are 4 palaces of 4 emperors, starting from the first Roman emperor, Augustus. Actually, his name is Octavian, but everybody knows him as Augustus. And then after him, Tiberius will build another palace there. And then after Tiberius, Caligula lived there too. And then Nero. And then Nero built a massive palace. The will encompass all that area and beyond that as well. And then Domitian, the brother of Titus, to build the Colosseum. You can actually see the Colosseum. If you look at the distance down there, you can actually see the one part of the Colosseum. The left-hand side of the bell tower is the only part that is as it was, because all the rest we lost it. It's incredible how much we lost of the Colosseum. We lost something like 70% of it. And this is the Forum. Where do we start? The Forum starts with a square that is right there in the middle of this valley. Remember, the Rome was founded over there in 575 BC, they say, they moved from there to take this other hill over here, so that they could have this little valley here under control. You see, under control, because this was very comfortable to meet. Everybody will meet there, and when you meet somewhere, even when you are on the computer or internet, you call that a forum, don't you? Still today. Still today. And when you talk with people, usually what do you talk about? You go in any forum around on the internet, and what do you find? People gossip around about things, you know? And that's what they did, they gossip. And what do you do when you gossip? I'll tell you what you do when you gossip. When you gossip, either you're accusing somebody of having done something, or you're defending somebody for having done the very same thing. That's why the Romans became such good lawyers. The best lawyers in the world. Roman education, right there, you see? It started with grammar and then logic. And the Romans were very good at talking. And so, such good lawyers they made that around the Forum, the biggest building around here is a basilica over here and another basilica over there. What is a basilica? Well, everybody knows what a basilica is. It's a church. It's not. A basilica from the Greek. Basilica is just a typology of a building, the building of the king, a square rectangular room with a semicircular area at the end where the king would sit, and he was the lawgiver. And the Romans were so keen to have a law system that was good and solid that they used that type of building for their law codes. Yeah? And yes. And they were so good that when there was somebody talking there, that basilica would have been absolutely packed. And if there was somebody good talking on the other basilica over there on the other side of that square, everybody would rush into the other basilica to listen to him. Imagine if Cicero was there. Everybody would be there to listen to him. So we were talking about Cicero. Cicero is a great guy. I found him a little bit petulant in his letters, but I mean that was the way that people used to express themselves in those days. But he was a clever guy. He used his brain. You know, he was part of that education based on logic. Now remember, logic gave the Romans this enormous amount of skill, dialectical skill. But there was the art of the Roman that was different from dialectic. And that was called rhetoric. You know what rhetoric is? Rhetoric is the way that you can convince other people of your point of view. And the Romans were masters in that. It's the art of telling lies. You know, turning black into white and white into black. And Cicero was a master of that, and the ruins that you see here are the foundation of a temple dedicated to Concordia. Concordia is friendship. Actually, was a very important time for the Romans when there was found an agreement between the poor people and the rich ones. You know, that's what is the effect of the Roman Republic. Remember, the Romans were very clever guys. And at a certain point, they had to decide what to do. Once they got rid of kings, they had the famous 7 kings, you know. They didn't like kings. They liked some kings, but the last kings of Rome were not Romans, were Etruscans. People, you know, with different sort of issues, and quite arrogant. And the Romans didn't like that. And at the end, they kicked them out. Then they had to think, what sort of government shall we create for ourselves? And they immediately, as they always did, they look at the Greeks. They thought about democracy. But the Romans were a little bit too clever for democracy, because, you know, if you have to take decisions and things, to put a lot of people together, it becomes very, very difficult. So they didn't believe very much in democracy. They decided instead to create a republic, a proper republic, in Latin res publica, the public thing, to unite people around a common good. That's what is the Roman Republic all about. That's why after 2,000 years it's still so important today, you know, after 3,000 years I should say. So important today, this idea of the Roman Republic. In fact, the father founders of the United States, the first thing that they did when they created their organization, they looked at the Roman Republic, the check and balances, you know, so that nobody could have that enormous power, you know. No more kings. And if absolutely necessary, let's have a dictator. Why not? Presidential republic. Only for a short time. Only for a short time. But then things went wrong. And now you have things like this. Look at this. To celebrate the triumph of Roman emperors. That when the Republic was not working anymore, they decided to create emperors. Better than dictators. Emperors. The reason why emperors were better than dictators is that I would call the Roman imperial time constitutional, constitutional imperial power. Because remember, emperors were figure, they were sort of created by the people that had the power behind them. They all had to agree that those guys had the, you know, the power to carry on the policies that were good at the end for the people that had the money that were producing. And this is Septimius Severus. Septimius Severus arch, a triumphal arch. You know, if after battles, a victorious battle, they would come along here, pass in front of the Senate House there. This is the government of Rome. Huh? This is the government of Rome. I was saying about Septimius Severus is the Romans' Obama, because he came from Africa. But nobody mentioned it. It was such a cosmopolitan empire, you know? Everybody was part of it. The Romans were no racists, in other words. Or at least they were no racist about the color of their skin, they were racist about the color of their hair. If you had red hair, you would have been a barbarian. If you had a red beard, you would have been a barbarian. If you stank of beer, even worse. The worst of barbarians, so those were the Germans. The German tribes were called, you know. Another beautiful view of the Forum. Here we discover something that I hope is going to be made visible eventually. Underneath, well, let's first look at the Senate House, because this is quite original, you know? Quite original. Have a good look at it. You can see the decoration on the top, made in plaster, not marble. That's important. The Senate have to be simple. There is a little demonstration, that's why we have helicopters going around. Here it goes. Had to be a very simple place, because that's what the Romans regarded with great importance, simplicity, you know. If you were too sophisticated, the Romans didn't like it, it was dangerous. But they loved it, really. They could not resist sophistication. And the Senate House would have a porch outside, would have the windows like you see here. It would have basically built the bricks. It was a square room. The senator would sit one side and the other side, and then in the middle there were the older senators and the councils. There was no right or left politically. You could sit anywhere you wanted, but it was expected that if somebody talked and you agree with him, you would sit on. You were sitting on a foldable chair, so you could stand up, fold up your chair, and go and sit next to the senator that you agree with. Then you think enormous chaos if there was something important to be discussed, but it worked so well. It worked so well because immediately you could see where the weight of the Senate was going to go. You know, very practical. Very practical. But where did those Romans make they really sort of the foundation? They made the foundation. You see this little wall here? Seems nothing, yeah? It seems nothing. Imagine that on top of that little wall there is a platform, and then where you see those white stone on the right hand side, there will be lots of rooms underneath there, some steps. So you could go up the steps, go into that, and then you could talk to the people of Rome right there. This is the rostra, the place for politicians. In Rome you could make your career either in the army or being a good lawyer. If you were a good lawyer, then you would become a good politician. And then you will perhaps end up as a senator. Right there. The rostra is called rostra because on that wall there would have been the point of Roman ship. During the civil wars between when Octavian became emperor, or Augustus, he defeated all these enemies in the Battle of Azio. Actually his enemies, he defeated Mark Antony at the Battle of Azio, and he cut off all the point of this Roman ship made of bronze and stuck them there. And because Cicero, going back to Cicero, he was a good Republican guy, he didn't like dictatorship, he didn't like emperors, he ended up with his hand cut, his head cut, his tongue cut as well, and they were all nailed on the rostra. Do you remember I was telling you about when we were up there about the geese? Well, the geese as well were brought on beautiful cushions here, and the dogs that didn't bark would have been all crucified there on the anniversary of the defeat of the Gauls that attacked Rome, you know. So, what we were saying about what they're doing here. You see, this is a place where archaeology is still sort of in full action. And can you see that round piece of those sort of the bits of a round shape there, those stones, those white stones, yeah? There used to be a sacred place that was round, and then they did some excavation here, and now there is a huge sort of circle with massive stones. It was the Curia, the original Curia. It was the place for elections, where everybody would go there in the middle of that and talk to other people. I really hope that this is going to be visible when they take all this off. And then, of course, the Senate House was constructed nearby to the Curia. Underneath here, there are about 3 meters, and in those 3 meters there is about 8-9 different levels of the Roman Forum, one on top of the other, you know. And so what it was there at the very, very beginning, we're talking about the 800 BC, something like that. It goes about, the memory goes up. And they change a bit, but they're still there, the memory of what was there originally 3,000 years ago. From here you can actually see in the distance, I don't know if you can zoom on it, the Arch of Titus. Another arch like this, you see? Triumphal arches. An imperial triumph. It was a little bit, think about the carnival in Rio de Janeiro that lasts about 3 days. It would have lasted more or less the same, 3-4 days, and you will have big sort of floats with big paintings of the battles, very visible indeed, you know. And there would be people throwing money. And there would be people sort of playing instruments, all the army passing by. Everybody would be so excited. Absolutely fantastic. They will all come through this little road, the Via Sacra, and then up to the Capitoline Hill, where at the Temple of Jupiter, where the triumph would actually take place. Only when the major prisoner, the king, the general, defeated, there was left right here, you see? Underneath this little church called San Giuseppe dei Falegnami, the Saint Joseph of the Carpenters, yeah? There was a very, very dark grotto right underneath. And we think originally it was a water system. And the prisoner would be left in there and then garroted. And only when he was garroted, then the triumph could take place on the Temple of Jupiter, Optimus and Maximus. Later on, there is the belief that perhaps Peter was kept in the Carcere Mamertinum. You see there? Carcere Mamertinum. And then he was saved and taken off this chain by an angel. But it's only sort of the tradition that tells us that. It's a very, very sort of claustrophobic little place, you know. You can actually go and visit it there. Now we're going up a Roman road that flanks the first extension of the first extension of the Roman Forum, and this was done by Julius Caesar. Now, Julius Caesar, I really don't like Julius Caesar, you know. I don't like him because he was a dictator. I don't like dictators in general, but I have some sympathy for him. The sympathy there for Julius Caesar, although he was a very arrogant man, is that he actually could, we are going to meet him in a minute, you know, he realized that this republic, having the people become so rich and so powerful, was not working anymore. The Senate House, that was so respected because it was looking after the people of Rome, everybody around the common good, the res publica, now they were only looking after themselves, leaving the poor people, and Julius Caesar was one for the poor people. Like all dictators have to be, you know. And so he looked after the poor people, left them a lot of money when he died. He was loved by the poor people, but he was a rather crudish man, and very practical. And so his forum is just as a market, and a proper market, you know. And this is, you can actually see the shops, the back of the shops. The forum is expand on the other side, and those wonderful, I love those wonderful Roman roads, you know, made of basalt. This is volcanic lava. Rome is surrounded by volcanoes, ancient volcanoes. So we have an awful lot of this material, you know, volcanic material. Usually volcanic material is very good. It's very good for building. That's why the Roman became such a... Oh, sorry, every sometime I get confused because I'm talking about the road and then I look at this, look at it. Look at those, this is, where are you going to find a beautiful leaf of acanthus like this one? And this was the sacred plant for the Romans, the acanthus. Useful plant, because it's good for the heart, and it can be a poisonous plant as well. Very useful. And if you look at Roman decoration, you will always find the acanthus, the foxglove. The flower is missing now, but in a few months you will see those beautiful flowers coming up, you know, out of all of those. Going back to the road, basalt, volcanic material, very good for building. If you cut those stones, usually no, it cuts flat. So it's perfect for making roads. 83,000 kilometers of road system in the Roman Empire, you know. Roman Empire. Somebody asked me, you know, how big is the Roman Empire? It's very difficult to say how big is the Roman Empire, but a definition of that I really love is that they would say that the Roman Empire was 3 months wide and 2 months high. That was the time the wall take you to move from one place to the other. Such a good thing to see young kids coming and visit those places, you know. A lot to learn here. And those trees, they are famous. I mean, you know, who doesn't know those trees? The Mediterranean pine trees, you only find them in the Mediterranean area. Pine trees, conifers. Every time I should say a word about this building here, because if you want to think about Rome 2000 years ago, this is it. You know? This is imperial sort of style. Here is the temple of Julius Caesar. 3 columns left. This was for his family. The first one of Julius Caesar's family was Venus, the goddess Venus. And she was represented here. And then there was the statue of Julius Caesar. Next to Julius Caesar there was the statue of his beloved Cleopatra that he likes very much. And had a son with Cleopatra, clever girl Cleopatra. Both of them wanted the same thing: the unification of Egypt and Rome. Then Julius Caesar died. Cleopatra's dream sort of went into smoke, and but then she tried it again. A clever girl. She tried it again with Mark Antony. If Julius Caesar was a difficult character to bring under her control, Mark Antony was very easy. And this, you see, I keep thinking about things and then something else comes up. You know what this is? It's not an original, I must say, but it's the best we have at the moment. This is a milestone. A Roman milestone. On a column like this, you will have the distance from Rome, if you left Rome, and the distance of the next city that you were going to, you know? I said I was going to introduce you to Julius Caesar. Well, there it is. Those are copies made in the 1930s of marble statues. Caesar, as I said, we can blame him about everything except the fact that he actually realized that this republic was not working anymore to control this vast empire, you know. And there is something quite interesting about Julius Caesar that I would like to recollect with you. Just to sometimes when you know, we have a preconceived idea about those characters. Sometimes we think that they're bad. Sometimes we think that they're good. Sometimes we have an impression. When he went to Gauls, to conquer the Gauls, where he committed genocide, you know what he did during his travel there? He wrote a book on grammar. Would you imagine that? Julius Caesar writing a book on grammar? That's just to tell you how important it was, that education for those Romans, you know? Very, very important indeed. I wish it was the same today. We should learn sometime from the past, you know? Let's cross this road that was created here. This enormous road was created in the, I see the Colosseum right at the end down there. It was created around 1933, 1934, 35, to welcome Hitler that was going to pay a visit here in Rome. And Mussolini, then the dictator in Rome, wanted. They had his headquarters right there. You see, careful of the roads. The dictator had his headquarters right there in the Beisci, prego. Beisci, so, you know, we risk our life as guides sometimes, you know. The Beisci Palace there with a balcony where Mussolini used to have his speeches during the war. Oh, let me introduce you to another character that is very important here. Actually, what a better shot than this. If you look at that guy there, Roman Emperor Trajan, the maximum expansion of the Roman Empire, you know? And right behind him, his column. Now, I really like to imagine this statue here to be on the top of that column. Instead, it's St. Peter's there now. But no, he would have been there. Underneath the column were his ashes. And all this area here was his forum. That he expanded it tremendously. Because at this point, the Roman Empire is so vast. And the forum had to accommodate, you see, like for Julius Caesar, that was a commercial forum, very commercial, has a market. This instead was commercial, but at a different level. Because you see those arches there, not part of the forum, just outside the forum, was the Trajan markets there. And it wasn't a normal market. This is the first World Trade Center. In there were offices that were promoting what was produced in the provinces. It was promoting support for activities in those provinces of the Roman Empire. And there is a loggia. Beautiful loggia. We don't know if Mantegna, an artist of late 1400, or Giovanni da Maiano painted the inside of that loggia beautifully, and it belongs. There is a red flag. It belongs to the sovereign military order of the Knight of Malta. It's got extraterritoriality. That tells you how complicated is Rome even today. Because Rome is the capital of Italy. But in this city there are another two capitals. One is the capital of the Vatican, there is the Vatican City. And the other one is the Knight of Malta, the Knight of St. John. They have a building near the Spanish Steps in another tour that we do with the new Rome free tour, where you can actually see it's just a building, but it's got extraterritoriality. They got their own passport. They are represented at United Nations. And behind the building in the Spanish Steps there down there, there is a little shop where there is a postal box. So you can come to Rome and send a postcard from Italy. You can send a postcard from the Vatican. You can send a postcard with the stamp from the Knight of Malta. That's how complicated Rome can be, you know. And what you see on the top, sometimes it comes from the very bottom. All those bricks of the leaning tower. You don't have to go to Pisa to see a leaning tower, you see. You can come to Rome and you have another leaning tower after an earthquake. We have volcanoes many millions of years ago, and still today we have earthquakes because of that. Every 400 years we get one, and that one was a big one. It went a little bit like that. But it's all those bricks that you see on top of there, they come from down here. And here there are different levels that you can see. And some of those levels, they are not that ancient. They go back to 1900, when here there were sort of normal houses, there were roads. Look at this one. You see? With houses. I actually discovered that there was a house here. I have to go, this is something that I like to investigate. There was a house here, it's called Casa Ciacci. There is my surname. There must have been somebody here of my family that used to live here hundreds of years ago. and you see, that's the Roman of 2,000 years ago. That is the Roman of the Roman Empire, that level down there. Then because of the Knight of St. John, they are the Hospitalier Knights, fighting knights, but as well they used to look after the sick. There were hospitals here. And one of the hospitals was right here, where you see those columns, you see? So now we saw the Trajan Forum. This is Augustus' Forum. Let's meet Augustus. This is the first Roman emperor, the father of the Roman Empire. What everybody think the best. And perhaps he was the best emperor, but he was not a very nice man. I wouldn't trust him at all. And very, very, very aware of himself and what he represented. He's the emperor that will never grow old, because all his representation, they show him as a young man. Very, very important, you know. He thought about everything. He created the Roman Empire. Everybody will look back to him. And he created here a forum with a temple, big temple, with 2 libraries on the sides, and that temple was dedicated to Mars. But not any Mars, the god of war, a special Mars. It was called Mars the Ultor, the Avenger. You do something wrong, he will deal with you. And this was a forum for lawyers. But not normal law, international law. If Rome won a battle against some enemies, it would then take them here to sign a treaty of peace in that temple of Mars the Avenger. And if they didn't respect that, they will know what was going to come to them. I save you a very painful sort of walk at the moment amongst the sort of constructions, because we're building a metro station right down there in front of the Colosseum. That is right there. We already have one, but now we're going to have another one, much bigger. In Rome we only have 3 lines. The first one took an awful long time because it was not very deep. And you can imagine this surrounding. When you go 20 meters down, you find all sorts of stuff. So every week they used to stop and get the people in to see if it was something important or not. Then the second line, we decided that we had to go very, very deep indeed, and we did. But then we always had to come up somewhere. And coming up, we would encounter something like 17 meters of archaeological layers, one on top of the other. And that as well delayed the works tremendously. And now we test before we make the line to see where we can come out safely. And hopefully we're going to have a third line in half of the time that took the second line to be created. The first line, did I say that? 40 years. 40 years to make one line. We have been on the Capitol Hill, that is one of the 7 hills of Rome. We've seen the Palatine Hill there, where Rome was founded, 2 hills. Now we are going up the Oppian Hill. So now we've seen 3 of the famous hills of Rome. And with a grand view of what is, I think, quite rightly too, the calling card of Rome. The Flavian Amphitheatre, Amphitheatrum Flavius. Flavius because is the family name of the emperors that sort of built it, starting with Vespasian, after Nero practically. Vespasian, he started the building of the Colosseum in 72 AD. His son Titus finished it because Paul Vespasian spent so much money to do this, and he died the year before it was open to the public. So he never saw a single game here. It was Titus that saw one game because he died the year after, in 81 AD. The Colosseum was open to the public in 80 AD. 8 years to build. How did the Romans build the Colosseum in 8 years? One wonders. Logic. That's what they did. Organization. 200 carts a day will come here with the stones already cut at source from 20 kilometers from Rome in that direction, east of Rome. They will come here and then they will be put one on top of the other. No cement in between, because you know what happens if you put cement in between? If there is a slight little tremor, and Rome, being volcanic ground, it's got lots of little tremors, you know, it will just crumble away. So what the Romans did, well, they invented Lego. Forget about the people from Denmark that say that they invented Lego. They didn't. The Romans did it. They put the metal rods inside those stones, and then they stack them one on top of the other, exactly like Lego bricks. And they went up 55 meters, about, with 80 gates, all numbered. If you go close to those gates, you can actually see the Roman numbers on top of that, so that everybody will know exactly where to go. They will not only know where to go inside, but they will know as well which level to go depending on their social status. This was an affirmation of what was Roman society. The Colosseum was a very complex building. A part of the actual building that actually, let me say this is the best part of the Colosseum you can see. That's why I took you here, avoiding all the work for the underground down there, you see. It's the best part of the Colosseum because it's the only part that is still as it was 2,000 years ago. In 1349, we had a big earthquake, and that earthquake brought down a large part of the Colosseum. All the other side, it's gone. And you can find it all around Rome, because all the stones would then be used to build St. Peter's Basilica, to build lots of other buildings here in Rome. This would become the quarry of Rome until 1700, mid-1700, when they decided it was a sacred place because so many Christians were executed here. But it's not really true. There is no corroboration to that. This was just for entertainment, you know, the best of entertainment. I'm sure the Colosseum would have been like the Olympic Games now. And it would not last a week or two. It would last 2 or 3 months, if not 4, depending how rich was an emperor. Extremely expensive, so much money. So it was such a money spinner, this place, you know. And we didn't have just this one. We had about, we discovered about 280 of those within the Roman Empire, and we know that every single even little town will have one of those. So there are many more still to be discovered. It's called amphitheater because it's different from a theater, being an amphi one. And in Greek, and the Romans, remember, they spoke Greek better than Latin, if they were educated. In Greek, amphi means double. It's a double theater. And the reason why the Romans built a double theater, again, because, you know, it could take more people. Today, we think, somebody says that the Colosseum took about 50,000-60,000 people, because when the Colosseum was first built and finished and opened to the public by Titus, it was built up to the 3rd layer. You see, 1, 2, 3rd. The top was not there yet, but then Titus died, and his brother took power, and Domitian will then build the top there. And on the top there would have been high mass going even further up than that. And those high masts will be supporting the velarium. There was a sort of a canopy that will come down and cover the people inside from the sun during the summer, you know, when it was hot. The velarium, so highly organized. And then underneath in the arena, called arena because there was sand, in Latin Sandis Arena, there was the underground of the Colosseum with all the mechanism to make those magic things happen like in a modern theater today. And this was all for propaganda. For about 400 years, the Colosseum was very, very successful indeed. And then with the coming of Christianity, of course, the gladiators games that went on here, the combat between two people to death at the beginning, it will be stopped. The animal games that took place in there will carry on for another little while to 500. I think the last one was 520, and then it went into disrepair slowly, abandoned. So I think that we had a very nice sort of little walk around Rome. I didn't tell you all the things that I could tell you, but if you come to Rome, join one of our tours, because then we will have the time to tell you much more about those things. So remember, New Rome free tours, we're always here waiting for you. Have a good time and keep safe, yeah?